Alright, so I'm waiting for some more parts to come so I can kind of dial in the fuel. I am gonna test fit my radiator. Brand new Mishimoto. Got this like last year for Black Friday. So I want to test fit and see how much space. I also removed my coolant collector so that I can kind of see how much more I'm going to scoot it back, because I know it was kind of in the way of where the actual outlet was going to be. So anyways, let's open this up, test with this. Already got some bent fins, but it is what it is. I was able to fit the hose for the bottom one. It lined up fairly well. I just had to trim a little bit. It's just the top portion here. The forward-facing manifold just comes out so far and pretty close to the outlet. I need to figure out a way to, obviously I can cut these shorter because the way that the collector looks, you add those to here, and then I need to find a way to get this in here where it's not all kinked, and then also not to get in the way of the throttle position sensor as well as the fuel line and the variable timing, so I can't get in the way of that sensor as well. Fun stuff, but it does look good in there. I will be painting this once I get everything to fit, because I'll probably most likely scratch that, but she does look good in there. And I still have some room for some fans as well. It'll be really close, but not too bad. Okay, so it's another day, and finally got some parts in that I was waiting for. I had originally purchased a pusher fan because the clearance between the crank pulley and the actual radiator, there's literally no space at all. But I'm usually able to, as I showed you guys before, place a puller on one side and a pusher on the other. So I'm going to do the same setup. Successful with no overheating, literally with eBay fans. Actually had one eBay fan on my S14 RB25 drift car, and fortunately there wasn't any overheating on that. And I decided, since this is something that I plan on keeping and I want to go, do it right the first time, I went with Spal. So Spal, they're definitely not a no-name brand fan. The CFMs that they actually list are proven, and if you watch some videos, there's a lot of people that do the testing on these, and they actually do put out the amount of CFM that they state. So I went with 2 this time. So on here, I finally got the puller, which will be in the inside of the engine bay, and the first one I bought was a pusher. So both of those are going to go on. I'm going to put the puller on first. If you look, I even put my the power steering cooler I'm going to be placing on this side, which already has space. I had to get rid of the stock power steering cooler that goes underneath near the sway bar, because the oil pan of the RB gets in the way. So anyways, I'm going to attach that on there, probably just do the inside first and try to mock it up from there. But I also got the power steering line to work, which I haven't hooked up yet, so I can get some space, and I put some thermal wrap on one of the power steering lines. Alright, so what I ended up doing is, instead of, because this was too big to fit on the actual fan like groove, so just to show you here, to fit this in here, if it will focus, there you go. This obviously was getting in the way. I don't know why I showed you guys this one with the cord in the way. So what I did is I trimmed each one a little bit so that it'll still hold, but it'll actually sit flush now. So I just did that to each one, and that way it'll still sit flush. And that should be fine to get that on there. Alright, so that's on. If you notice, I did move it all the way to the right, just because I do have something in the way, which is the actual fan pulley. It gets really close to this side, so I needed to make sure it was flush here. So normally I would center this a little bit more, obviously towards the left or the center, but due to space and clearance, I had to do this. And on top of that, when I mocked up my power steering cooler, it does need to be further in, about this far, just because the hose, this is against the chassis rail, or the frame rail, so on this side of the radiator. So having the hose come out this way, it made it almost impossible to be that far out. So being able to be almost towards the center gives me a lot of clearance. But yeah, so now I'll have space for that. I think I'm gonna mount this when it's in the actual car, just because I think it'll be easier to get the hoses from here on and then strap to this. And if you notice, I did not use, these come with the springs. I usually don't run them because they just don't look nice and flush and looks almost cheap. And I just use the pad along with the actual lock washer that it comes with, and it looks a lot cleaner. And it's secure. I mean, it's not gonna shake and wobble and whatnot, so that's all that really matters. But anyways, got that done. I'm gonna put that in and try to mock up the power steering cooler. Okay, so a part just came in. It's a bushing for my shifter, but this bushing is different because I have the RB25 Neo Trans. So it's basically from the GTT, and the shifter itself is a small bushing shifter, but it has a larger diameter outside part of the bushing. So you gotta make sure you get the right one. This is a part number for the 240 SX, like the KA and SR shifter, but using the bigger washer itself, or bushing. So I'm gonna put that in. So to make more sense of what I just explained, this is a normal KA style bushing. If you notice, it's a lot smaller, and this bushing is a lot larger in comparison. I'll put it down. So from here to here, you can tell it's obviously a lot larger. The only problem is they're also big bushing where the ball for the bushing is also larger. This is the larger bushing, but the smaller ball from the KA. So you can run that and that. Alright, so I just popped off that small bushing, and the GTT bushing is on. So now I can actually shift. I kind of want to tackle this the smartest way I can, meaning when I start doing the wiring, I tend to like to get the things that are the hardest to reach done first. So for example, the heater core lines, since everything's underneath the intake plenum, I wanted to get that done first. Next, I'm most likely going to get the relocation, the oil relocation kit set up, which if you look, I do have the adapter plate, the Greddy one right there. And then I'm most likely, I don't want it to run out into the engine bay. I feel like it just looks messy. I did that with the white cookie, and to be honest, I did see someone do it right here underneath the frame rail. Since you're gonna have to be underneath by the oil pan anyways to get the drain, there's a spot here on the left side, which I'll show later on, where I can have it facing down still, so that way it's not next to the block where all the oil will kind of fall onto the block and the steering rack. So at least it's still out of the way and it's still out of sight in the engine bay itself. But I did get the, like I said, the heater core lines. I don't know if you can see it from this side. So that's all attached there. Nothing's in the way, so there's no rubbing on anything. And I did get the kit, that S14, S13 to RB heater hose kit from Raw Brokerage. I only ended up using this one since I'm using a forward-facing manifold, which changes the location. So I did use the one closest to the firewall right here. So, but yeah, so next I'm gonna remove these fuel lines and start plumbing up my fuel here. So before I remove the actual fuel filter, that's always a return. So I like to take a picture or, you know, save it on here for reference. But if you look, this one is the send. They are different sizes by a little bit. I know that the send is going to be a little bit larger diameter hose than the return. So I'm going, I believe it was -8 for the send, which I'm going to have the send on this side, and -6 for the return. Still trying to figure out how I'm going to route this, if I want to go underneath the intake plenum and use these brackets here, but the wiring is going to go in here too. So this is kind of where the nice thing is with the AN fittings, you can just unbolt it and put it in there to get it out of the way. So alright, so I got the fuel filter, and so the fuel filter is the return and the send line out. Now I don't have my little pipe cutters to remove the flares off of this because I will be using conversion AN fittings. But for now, I wanted to get my new fuel filter. If you look, it is a reusable aftermarket one. There is manufacturers, they always have a flow direction. On this one, it's hard to tell, but that would be the end of the filter. So that is the outlet, and then this is the inlet. But again, refer to your manufacturer. This is just an Amazon one. Had really good feedback. It can't be any worse than one of those stock ones, and it is a high flow, which is what I'm after. But yeah, so I'm gonna put this in and make sure that we get the right orientation on there. And then I have my -6 fittings, which is the return size, and my send is -8, but we're just gonna focus on this one for now. All right, so I kind of jumped the gun on these. I had these old, I think they were like, I don't remember what brand it was, but basically those clear corners, the cheap clear corners from like Injuku or whatever they may be, and I painted them orange just so that way they weren't that clear. I like the OEM look. A while ago I did end up finding a good set of brand new corners, so I put those in. But again, I was holding off to put those on like at the end, but I was like, you know what, I have all these parts all over the place, I might as well just start putting them on and tossing on the old ones. I'm not going to keep these. I don't think this is something I'll use again, plus it's all busted and kind of nasty, but yeah, looks a lot better.